Hi, this is Jeff Allen, and we are today at the 2012 virtual conference for professional translators of ProZ.com. And this session, which I'm doing, is specifically on the topic of managing what I called managing cross-cultural expectations and conflict on fast-paced large projects. So what I like to do in this session is to cover mainly for projects they're not small 5,000 word projects. We're talking about some larger ones that cover multiple languages, multiple participants at different types of roles, project managers, translators, proofreaders, editors, desktop publishers, different people in different even some you might have to have some folks doing computer skills on doing all the tagging, untagging, stripping, production, people, localization experts, etc. So what I like to do is bring in these few minutes the number of points that I've seen, at least in the past 2 decades of working in small teams, worked in a lot of smaller production teams, in the small local teams. I've also worked in a number of large remote cross-project teams, cross-site project teams, and I've done the distributed teams across different continents and different time zones. In different cultures too, and working and lived in different cultures, and working with people on for 20 years, literally on a daily basis, and including having done at the beginning of my career, did my master's, my doctoral work in cross-cultural communication, and I taught communication at the university level in France for a few years, as well as in the U.S. So what I'd like to do is highlight a few of the essentials, again, on these types of projects, what to discuss, what to define, what to agree upon at the beginning or the outset of the project before you proceed to the core of the work. And I like to cover a couple of three areas in which I'll give some examples. Some of those, how to promote an idea, or how to promote your idea that you're trying to get across. Okay, and that's one thing. We'll see that, and that's can be at every level of different projects. A second point is organizational aspects, and a third point I like to mention is decision-making processes. These are not everything that we could go over, but I'd like to give you a few of these and give different points of view that I've seen in working with different cultures. And then see how that this can hopefully inspire more discussion, more debate outside of this session for you to be able to successfully work together. That's really my goal, and I've written a lot of articles. I have been writing articles on this, and I continue to write more right now. So a few of the people that I've read or heard sessions on, and there are many more that I just want to mention a couple that have more influenced some things I thought, is Pascal Baudry. A lot of the books, and he does a lot in the media as well, television broadcasts. He teaches at the universities, at business schools mainly in the U.S. and in France. And Melissa Landon, who has a lot of corporate experience. She's a professional trainer and goes around and gives sessions, especially the company I'm currently working at, and I've given her a number of points on, at least for the French, that she wasn't aware of. So let's go over these 3 points again, is how promoting ideas or concepts that you're trying to get across, some of the organizational aspects, and decision making. Okay, so the experience with Americans. Well, I'm writing an article right now on working with Americans, and for the North Americans, the idea is that it's a marketing pitch. They put it across in 30 seconds, and they're taught to go ahead and do that too. They have experience from school, young age, to present, to give their presentations individually and as a group, collectively. And they're the ones that usually come up with the 30-second sales pitch talk. And I've watched a lot of videos. I grew up in it. And they see it as, if you can't get it across in 30 seconds, which I'm not doing in this 30-minute session, But I did try to give a couple points along those lines here in the same way. The 30-second sell. And if it's not done that way, then it won't get across. The attention span isn't long enough. Okay, so you got to move the next thing. Okay, so that's promoting the ideas. Whereas if you work with more with the Germans, and I've worked for a German company for the past 4 years, and working with German colleagues on a daily basis on the phone and in virtual conferences, the kind of that we're having here on the virtual platforms as we're having here at the conference this week. My experience has been that you come with an organized agenda. You have to send a pre-read document, pre-read the agenda. It's got to be all outlined at least 3 days before the meeting. Okay, don't come in at the last minute and do that. They don't like that. And I'm saying in general, this is not true of everyone, but everyone seems to laugh when we present that in some way about how the concept of the Germans is in general. Okay, the French. The promoting the idea, a lot of it's système débrouillard. You just kind of get things going, make it happen. Promoting the idea is a very relational thing. It's who you know more than what you know, in those aspects. Also, when you present your idea and you promote your idea, you need to come and begin to give the background of the what's happening, and then finally get to the details of what you're doing. So it's really important to go through this process, and coming in with a 30-second sell doesn't always work in the culture in general. But there are lots of training sessions how to do this and present better, or how to present better, how to present things that will affect other cultures in that way. But the French have their way, and then so there's a couple of 2 or 3 examples. The Chinese have a more of different mindset. The Japanese as well. I don't want to go over every culture. Really, listen, Landon Pascal Baudrine, and many others have done many other good books or articles on the topic. Just want to give some overall. So promoting the idea, presenting the idea, and getting the point across, and trying to, I don't want to say sell the idea, but that's what we're all trying to market ideas and market our presentations and what we're trying to get and say. So these are, that's going to be one thing. And especially if your project was sold based on the project that you're working on was sold based on one of the points of view. Which one was sold on? And what were the expectations that were set for it at that point in time? Was it just kind of this more verbal thing with some basic details in a contract or something? Or was it completely defined by the Germans? They're really in a very, very detailed way. You want to know this, okay, as you're going into doing the production aspects of this project and the actual project management aspects. So that's one. The second, a second type of aspect is organizational aspects, okay? So how do the different cultures see organization? And when you've got a project, you get an organizational aspect to deal with. Project management, account management, everything. So how do they see it? Well, some Americans can see that as, well, that's just the extra stuff to do, because the salespeople are really important and all that. Where the Germans will see it as very crucial that you have to even set up front the expectations of of how you're going to do the organization, how it's going to be run, what dates are going to be done by, and everything. And the French, as we saw, will come to a meeting and won't even have pre-read anything. It's just the moment to begin discussing the topic and to find out and discover in the meeting about what it's about, rather than having, as the Germans had, pre-read it 3 days before. Okay. And having commented on the agenda. So these are a few of the things on the organizational. What is the aspect? Another point of organizational is time definitions. When you say we'll take the Americans, when you say end of day Friday, okay, the deliverables are to be done end of day Friday in a contract. Well, for an American, that can mean, well, end of day, midnight is the end of day. There's an end day work day, but if I said that, they will commit to it. They will get it done by the end of the day, and they will do it. And even volunteer things are quite important. They will get the volunteer things done even that day as they committed. But the end of day is a very flexible thing that can go can go to midnight if it's, especially if it's not crucial, if the time was not set and there's not a specific deadline or actually dependency behind it. They know that we'll just get it done. It can be done at 10 o'clock at night, just as long as it's in. Okay, I'm not saying it's everywhere, but this is the flexible aspects. The Germans end of day, or done by Friday again, by Friday night, even specifying end of day. My experience has been that sometimes things will be, if it hasn't been sent in by 2:30 p.m., it's too late, and now they go on and do other things and make decisions to do elsewhere. Whereas this would shock some from North America, because end of day 5 o'clock. Okay, at least an end of day work day is 5 o'clock, not 2:30 p.m. My experience for many of the Germans, they're leaving at in the corporate 4:30 p.m., where that's not even the beginning of the day for the West Coast in the United States. So the time zone differences actually impact this. So what do you mean by end of day, or what do you mean by delivering by Friday? Now the French, and again we're making some generalizations here. By Friday, well. The French, they'll want to have, was it really Friday? and sometimes it'll even be late, and there's the issues of accountability. The French have been known for accountability, actually delivering who's asking me to do it, and so it really won't be done. Now people do get it done by Friday in France, but there is it's even less rigid. I want to use the rigid, but it's strict on the date, the time they're going to do it for. A German versus the American, and the French might say, well, I've had a lot of people just deliver it the next day. They say, it's been set up, we have to have this on Friday evening, and it gets delivered at Saturday at 12 o'clock. Okay, so in midday. And you confront them with that, and they don't like that, some of them. So this is some experiences on this, and it does fit along the lines of the articles and the books on these other authors that have talked about the cross-cultural and intercultural aspects of working together. That's organization. And then the Indians will want to have everything outlined. Indians from the East Indian subcontinent, okay, I want to specify that. They want to have things outlined at every point. They want to checklist this off, and that's because they've come from a background of outsourcing. It happened with the tea industry before, and it's been happening with the software industry and services industry for the past 20 years. And since there's a time difference, they're usually not the people that are asking for the requests are maybe based in Europe or the Americas, or maybe from more of the Occidental Eastern Asia. They're not going to be in the same time zones exactly, and so usually there might be 3.5 hours off from the Central Europe, or even more from the Americas. The time zones they're expecting to know what they need to do so they don't lose the time, and they get their resources and get everything together, and want to have that everything is known and the expectations are set. The Indians are very explicit, whereas the French on these aspects are more implicit. Okay, and these are some of the things that you need to look at. Explicit, you want to specify the criteria and all that. Implicit would be more of it's just implied. When you say that day, it's going to be that day sometime, but it could be the next day. And so the organizational aspects are take this into consideration. This is usually one of the points that is creates a lot of contention in working with different cultures, and so go ahead and look at that and think about that as you're planning and preparing. Have the people that you're working with in these different projects lived in different cultures. This helps a lot because it helps to understand that there are some. It just doesn't work in their own bubble, in their own culture. Okay. Another point that I want to come up here, bring up is the decision-making process. Is the third point that I want to mention in this session. Decision-making process is how you go about reviewing and deciding, and then and is set or not. So for the decision-making process for Americans, there is, you can go by a vote, do it, decide, done, okay? And they usually want to be democratic in the sense, but there's some points of that, but let everybody have their voice and really push to have everybody vote, very push to have everybody participate in that and get it. The Germans, in general, what I found is that they'll have a vote, but even if no one says anything, then we decide. Okay, so if there's no voice, say okay, then we're up, gone. And so and for the Germans, it's set in stone. Once you made the decision, there's no turning back usually. And I've experienced this many with contracts and working on things that if you come in with extra criteria the next 2 days, then it just won't be considered, and you have to really significantly negotiate why this has more business impact. And for that, the French decision-making process, again, here's some generalizations. They come to the meeting without having read necessarily the meeting minutes or the thing, maybe got skimmed over it, but this is the beginning to decide, the beginning to discuss it, the beginning to go ahead and discuss it. And it's a relationship building aspect. So it's not negative in their own, it might be contentious and cross-cultural, but it's not necessarily negative in working together. Because it's relationship building, and sometimes they know people. It's who you know more than what you know on that, and how you go about getting the other people to allow for the decision-making process. There's a lot of hierarchical aspects in that. And so this relationship aspect is very different than what we saw with maybe the North American culture, business aspect, just business. Go this, decide, go on, and see this as just commodities and deciding and people just doing it. So the people see, whereas more that's just being practical. It's seen as for the North Americans, just being practical, pragmatic aspect. Do it, go, and decide. So the decision making can be very problematic, and you have some cultures, and I've worked in a number of associations and committees where there's a lot of people from different backgrounds. You work in a consensus space, so not just in maybe decision voting aspect, but in a consensus or even democratic, more of a democratic one where you want to have all the votes. There might be just this consensus building aspect in some cultures where the goal is not to say yes or no and then to say that we're going to have a 2/3 vote, or 2/3 of the majority, or even 51%. That is the deciding factor. There's some that really consensus. You want to build everyone up to get everyone up to come to the agreement. But this takes a much more longer period of time to implement. And this has caused even other contention I've seen in working with different people that it's too long. And for the Germans, it can drive them nuts. They do this consensus building aspect because they want to get the decision go and move forward. Whereas consensus building, you have someone that's trying to get the consensus happening and building, but have everyone participate because it's relationship based. Okay, so I've seen this in paid projects. I've seen this in volunteer projects. A lot of things in my Haiti disaster relief work in 2010, where I had to get rid of participants, volunteers, because they just didn't deliver it all, and I had a lot of things behind that were depending on it. And but I said, this is disaster relief, you really need to participate in what it means, and wherever you do, you need to be accountable for that. And this is based on those types of projects. And we'll see this, you need to take this into consideration too for the translation field. Now there's a lot of these volunteer translation types of activities, working for NGOs and all that. And this, you need to be careful of that, because if your culture, your background is seeing volunteerism as something just extra, the commitment to it can be not as strict or tight as paid work. How you're going to be working for, you need to be careful, because these can be seen by other cultures, and especially in a lot of these volunteer translation networks and organizations that are existing more and more. How those are supposed to be at the same level professional. It helps put things on your resume and your CV. So there's a high expectation for that. And especially for even disaster relief, as I said a few minutes ago. And the misalignment of expectations, what this happens at the beginning, presenting in your ideas or promoting your ideas, or this happens in the organizational management aspects of projects, of all the logistics and going about it, or whether it be in the decision-making milestones and go, no go, time slots and milestones as well of a project. There's a critic for understanding how you work in your own culture and how people that you're participating and collaborating with, how they work in their cultures, and how the interaction between them can be for beneficial as much as possibly successful. Successful doesn't have to be based on the concept of success in one of the other cultures. It just needs to be that everything is working together. And most projects that I've been involved in large projects, I've managed in different cultures and in different countries and on multiple sites, as I mentioned. Most of them have difficulty based on these 3 points: how to present the idea, get the idea across, and get it sold, and get it moving. The organizational aspects, how you handle organizational management of things, and I'm not talking about people, but how you manage the project and the organizational aspects and all the details of the logistics and all the decision-making process. And these are kind of the 3 kind of key points. And just a last point here, some of the background of seeing things. I do remember a couple of years ago when I was interviewed for a job in a company, and the person took the notes, and at the end he said that Mr. Allen, you tend to be in French they call it commerçant instead of a commercial. And a commerçant is a person that is, we'll take the commercial. He said you weren't commercial, he's a salesperson, just pure sales. He said that wasn't the thing he was focusing on here. He was looking on the commerçant. The commerçant is a shopkeeper, the owner of the shop. And I think this fits really well into this topic here of this week of being your CEO. I think that it's very different of being your CEO in being a professional translator, because you're not trying to manage multiple teams and multiple projects. You're trying to actually run your own little business, and being the commerçant, the shopkeepers, you're seeing everything across all of the details from the beginning to the end. And that specific interview taught me to see things at different points of view, different roles across, and I did agree with that person. And what you need to see is when you're doing a project, one of the things that maybe a 4th point that comes across is that commerçant type of role. You want to see that everything can fall in place, has been seen and foreseen, and that the dependencies are all kind of naturally understood, and that you're not having any surprises along the lines, or you're able to adapt to the surprises. But usually when you're handling everything at a small kind of commercial level, you can see all that. So when you become bigger and bigger, it becomes more difficult because of all the dependencies, all the unknown dependencies, all the projects and sub-projects that create. Every time it's like a house. When you do house improvement, you start a project and it creates a lot of sub-projects behind, because you had a lot of things you weren't aware of. So these number of points, I think, are ones that you just need to be aware of. And the ones that you can go ahead and move toward thinking about and really think about the point of view of the others and how they perceive things, and not just the way that you're presenting it. So hopefully this is not the end of this discussion. This is just a presentation. There's nothing really new here, but hopefully it makes it aware of how this kind of fits into big projects. And there is on the web page of this project, of this session, there is a discussion debate, or there's you can make comments and stuff. We can discuss ongoingly on this, and to bring up points of differences But do spend some time reading, about the cross-cultural differences, and especially the people that you're working with, where they're coming from. Get to know them, get to talk with them. That's how I've learned a lot, is just spending time with people, talking, getting to know their cultures, and understanding and wanting to know more. And hopefully that will help you be more successful in the projects and collaborating with those people. Have a good day.